Okay guys, so sitting here in my truck and was thinking about when I first got into trucking, and I was running. It was towards the end of when I got out of over the road trucking. Actually, I was running for a company, flatbed company, Boyd Brothers, out of Birmingham, Alabama, I believe. So anyways, get these sunglasses off here. Not sure what I'm going to call this video yet, but something to do with how not to treat other drivers or how to be respectful to other drivers. A story that I did when I was, or something that I did when I was 20, what was I, 27, 28, that if the same situation happened now, I would definitely handle it a different way than I handled it back then. And it was a fellow driver. It was a guy that drove for, drinking my smoothie here, a fellow driver that drove for Boyd Brothers. We actually went through orientation and load securement at the same time. So here's what happened. It was a spring, like April, May 2010. I just got hired on with Boyd Brothers running flatbeds. We had a week of orientation and a week of load securement. Week of orientation in Cincinnati and a week of load securement. They sent us to Birmingham for the load securement. I don't know why. We went down there. Anyways, I went through the orientation, everything went fine. Went down to load securement, and down there it was hot. It was, like I said, May, Alabama, humidity. It was like 90, 95 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning. So they'd pick us up at the hotel at 6:30, something like that, take us over in a shuttle bus, and we'd be out on the yard about 7:30, 8 o'clock doing the load securement. And what was, the guy that trained us in load securement would go out there with us for like an hour. And about 9 o'clock, he'd go back inside. He'd show us everything he wanted us to do, and he'd let us spend from 9 to like 10:30. And he'd go back in the office because it was that hot out. We'd be out there, and about 10:30, he'd come back out, check on us, find out how we was doing, any questions, show us what else we needed to do, and then he'd go back in. So it was kind of like we was out there by ourselves pretty much the whole time. Maybe not the first day, but like the second day, third day, fourth day, whatever, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we was out there pretty much. He'd just come out and check on us periodically throughout the day. So this one guy that they made it to be a joke. There was 2 or 3 of them that hung out. I didn't really hang out with them, but there was like 3 or 4 different trailers with different loads on. Some had coils, some had plate steel, stuff like that. So we'd each get a chance at each one of them and go through and throughout the week or whatever. So then we kind of got put up in groups of 3 or 2 or 3, I can't remember, something like that. So they was over on like the far trailer. I didn't really talk to them that much, but this guy, whenever the trainer would go back inside, he would crawl under the trailer we were securing, and lean up against the dual tires and just kind of sleep, and didn't secure anything. That I seen anyways. He didn't secure anything at all. And when the trainer would come out, they'd be like, "Hey, the trainer's coming," and he'd jump back up out of there and then act like he was working, and nothing was ever said about it. And that was all week. I don't ever remember him even touching a chain, a strap, or anything. He might have here and there a little bit, but not a whole lot. And it was kind of like a running joke. How he would like, "Oh yeah, I just slept the whole time in securement class and all this stuff, and I didn't do anything." Like, yeah, that's on you, buddy. I don't know what to tell you. You're gonna have problems when you get out on the road. So anyways, we get back to Cincinnati. We get given our, what the world? So anyways, we get back to Cincinnati, and we get issued our trucks. I get my load, we're going. I don't see these guys again. I don't know, a couple months later, I'm sent to Philadelphia to pick up a load of plate steel. And it's just, what, 1/4 inch, I don't know how thick it was, a couple sheets of plate that was as wide as a trailer, like 8 feet wide, whatever, 35, 40 feet long. Lay it on your trailer, throw some chains over it, good to go. An easy load to strap, or chain down or whatever. So I went, got there, pulled in, they loaded me up, I pulled back out, threw all my chains, I threw an X strap, or an X chain across the front, and took like, I think I used all 10 chains on it. It was like 35, 40,000. I just always did that. If I could use all the chains, I did. So I just put an X chain across the front, and I went back through every 4 or 5 feet and ran my 8 other chains across and chained it down. So this guy had pulled in behind me, and it was the guy that slacked off in school and everything. And he got loaded and everything, and I was just finishing up chaining when he pulled out. He came walking over to me and said, "Hey, what's going on, man?" I was like, "Oh, not a whole lot." And he just looked at me and said, "How do you chain this load down?" And I was like, "Really?" He was like, "Yeah, I don't know how to do this." So I'm standing on top of my load, and I just finished winding down my last chain, so I was walking back. It didn't have to be tarped or anything, so I'm walking back to get down to get ready to pull out. And I was like, just take 2 chains, I said, and make an X on the front of the steel like this, like mine is. I said, and take 7 or 8 other chains and lay them out about every 4 or 5 feet, evenly back across the load, and bind them down. And he just looked at me dumbfounded. And he said, "How do you do an X strap?" And I was like, "Dude, we went through securement class, man." I said, "We did this, we worked on this stuff like every day. Like almost every load we strapped down, minus coils, we put an X strap with chains on the front." He's like, "I don't know how to do it. You want to come over and do it for me?" And I'm thinking, I ain't going over there and doing that for you, bud. You slacked off in class the whole time, and now you're on the road, you don't know how to strap down anything. Like, that's your responsibility, buddy. And I was like, "Hey, I gotta go." I said, "You see how I got my chains on the strapped on the front?" I said, "Do it like that and space them out across the back." And he just looked at me. I said, "Have fun." And jumped off the trailer, jumped in my truck, and down the road I went. Now, I was, like I said, I was 27 or something like that. And looking back at it now, I would definitely have handled that a different way, because even though he did slack off and stuff, he's still going down the road with that load. And if we don't have it strapped down properly and that load comes off, even though he didn't pay attention, you'd have to have some kind of feeling like, hey, you could have helped him out. I should have went over with the guy, went over to his truck with him, and went up on the trailer with him and showed him how to make an X strap. There wasn't that big of a rush for me to get that load delivered. I could have went over, even if I went over and said, "Hey, here's how you do it, I'll help you out," you know what I mean? And we'll put the X strap across the front if you don't know how to do that. And I'll you can do it, I'll tell you how to do it, I'll help you out, and then we'll lay the other chains across, which is super easy to do, and then bind them down. You know what I mean? If I had to do that again, if today that happened, if I'm out driving and that happened today, that's exactly what I'd do. I wouldn't have done it, I wouldn't have handled it that way. And being young like that, like I said, I was a couple years into it, and my thought was, I'm running, I ain't got time for all this stuff. And you had time. And I could have helped the guy out, and I should have helped the guy out. And looking back at it now, I definitely would have handled that a whole lot different, completely different than I handled it. Now, I wouldn't have had a problem going over and spending, it took 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes tops. You know what I mean? Drag out your chains. I'd have said, drag out your chains, I'm going to finish, get mine down, get out 8 or 10 chains, get them up on the bed, and I'll be over as soon as I get done here, and I'll help you out, bud. I'll get your X strap set up for you, show you how to do it, so next time you can do it. And actually, sat down and tried to show the guy, hey. But in my mind, he was a slacker. He was someone that wanted someone to do everything for him, and he was never going to do it himself. And he might have been like that. But at the end of the day, I should have at least walked over and been like, "Hey, buddy, I'll help you out, man. Give me 10, 15 minutes. And spend 10, 15 minutes with him. It doesn't take that long to throw an X strap with chains across the front of a steel plate. It doesn't take that long to throw 8 chains over, and, you know what I mean? Pretty simple stuff, but something that I would definitely do different. So, out on the road, you know what I mean? You're going to run into situations like that. That's the way I would handle it now. I didn't handle it that way. That's kind of dumb of me, looking back at it now. But if I ran, even if it wasn't a guy that was with the same company I was, if someone walked up to me now and I'm out there and he's like, "Hey, I'm having trouble with this." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll come over, I'll help you out. If I know how to do it and you don't, and I can show you, yeah, I'll do that." And I think that's what probably most everybody, I would think most anybody, if you walked up to it, I would hope if I walked up to somebody and I didn't know how to strap a certain load, and it was another flatbedder, I was like, "Hey, I ain't have a problem." I would hope he wouldn't say, "Hey, that ain't my problem, figure it out," and then just jump in his truck and leave like I did, which was really ignorant on my part. Because that was just a dumb move by me, just being young and being that attitude, like, it ain't my problem, it ain't my truck, it ain't whatever. But that's just I don't know what I'm going to call this I don't know what I'm going to call this video, whether it's how to not, I don't know what we're going to call it yet, but just a little story of something that happened to me when I was first in trucking and how I handled it and how I would handle it now if that same situation came up, and how I would hope every other trucker would handle it too. Imagine putting yourself in that position where you didn't know how to strap down a load, and you went up to ask someone that obviously you knew, because he just strapped it down, knew how to do it, or just chained it down or whatever. And that guy was like, yeah, I ain't got time for you. That's your truck. That's your problem. You figure it out. And then just drove off and left you standing there in the middle of the lot. Like, what the hell, man? You know, I would, if someone did that to me, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, what the fuck? All I did was ask for help, and you just was ignorant to me and just drove off like that. But that's the way I treated that driver, and that was definitely wrong. That was definitely wrong. Looking back, I was like, I feel bad about that. Now looking back on that situation, how I handled that situation, and I'm hoping. And I've talked to other drivers, and I've showed other drivers stuff that I've definitely changed. I'm not like that anymore. If someone comes up to me now and asks me, hey, how do I do this? If I know, I'm gonna go out and show them. If I don't know, I'll probably end up looking it up and finding out, because obviously if I don't know, then I want to learn it anyways. Finding out and then going over and helping them and saying, hey, let's figure out the best way. Let's go ask this guy. This guy's got it strapped down. I'm gonna go ask him. Maybe he'll give me some advice on how to do this, and hopefully he's not gonna be like, oh, it ain't my truck and ain't my problem. But anyways, guys, that's just a little story on how I handled the situation, and how I definitely wouldn't handle it that way now. And that was really, really stupid on my part. But hopefully, out on the road, if you run into somebody that's asking, then give them some help, man. If you know how to do it, you don't need to be out that thing right now. I mean, that load ain't that important if you can't spend 15 minutes with a driver that don't know what he's doing to go ahead and help him out a little bit and help him get a load strapped, help him. And definitely if the guy don't know what he's doing, he ends up throwing 3 chains across it, no X-strap, and driving down the road and it comes loose, ends up coming up into the cabin, hurting or killing him, or falling off and hitting a van full of kids or whatever, hurting people. That's on you. That's almost on you. And it would have been on me if that would have happened too.